Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jason Fox, and I'm the Senior Technical Evangelist at the FIWARE Foundation. And rumour has it that I am competent in FIWARE. The thing is that I'm not fully conversant in all aspects of FIWARE at the same level. I'm better at some things than others. And for example, when you've been seeing the Wednesday webinars, you'll find that my colleague Francisco has been dealing with robotics because he is more competent in robotics than I am. And indeed, this is a common problem in many different domains, such as agriculture. What you need to do is you need to be able to find the right expert to try and cover the problem which you're trying to deal with. And this is an issue when you need to find out who can do what and how and when. So the way to get around this is going to be described by two colleagues of mine from the University of Almería. Cynthia Giagnocavo and Miguel Giménez, and I will pass on to two experts to take you through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Jason. As you mentioned, we're from the University of Almería, and we're involved in the SmartAgriHubs project, and we're in charge of the work package that deals with competence centers. So we had to think of a way in which we can showcase competences and at the same time let people search for other competencies that they need and might not have, but also let competence centers show what they do have. So in this webinar, what we're going to do is we're going to talk very briefly about the role of the competence centers, but mostly we're going to focus on the Agricultural Technology Navigator, which is a tool that we have created to help with this showcasing and searching. And Miguel in particular is going to go through the registration. So Miguel, if you want to change the slide, please. Okay, so that's more or less what we're going on now. So we go to the next slide. It's really important that the competence centers in the SmartAgriHubs ecosystem actually get registered on the SmartAgriHubs Innovation Portal. Miguel will go over how you do that, but it's really important to get into the system. And once you're registered on the portal as a competence center, then you can start registering your systems and competencies in the Agricultural Technology Navigator. The next slide, please. You're all familiar with this picture of the Digital Innovation Hub, of course, in its various blob forms. But you'll see that competence centers form a quite important role in the Digital Innovation Hubs. And you can see that there's competence centers within the hub, but there's also competence centers outside the hub. And we have to think of the hubs as being quite local, but the competence centers are both local and more European. So we have a network of competence centers across Europe, and we have to know, okay, well, what are those competence centers doing and how might they help us in our local environment? Next slide. So this is a very simple to use tool that we've put together that will be on the Innovation Portal. And it's called the Agricultural Technology Navigator, or the ATN. And it's based very much on the agricultural supply chain, which doesn't suggest that all competence centers are from the agricultural sector, because technologies could easily be from other sectors. But because this is an agricultural hub project, we want to be able to organize the technologies along the supply chain so that people in any particular sector or activity might be able to find the solutions that they need. Okay, so next slide, please. So competencies and systems are supported by technologies, okay? So what we need to do is classify those technologies so that we can both enter and search for information on this portal. Next slide, please.
Okay, here I start, and already Cynthia has mentioned some concepts that are essential to the understanding of how the Agricultural Technology Navigator works. So I've included a few slides on some definitions for a clear understanding of some of these concepts, like technologies, systems, and competencies. So if we use this example, this is a sprayer system, autonomous sprayer system that has been developed by the University of Almería. This system is composed by different technologies. which are defined as those units of equipment, of bodies of knowledge that enable the operation and functions of a system or a competence. So in this case, in this particular case, we have some examples of technologies like a PAD controller, a piezoelectric pressure sensor, or a speed sensor. Systems is a set of components, a set of technologies that make sense and allows to take an input and change it according to the system's use and then produce an outcome. So this particular case, this autonomous sprayer or a decision support system for irrigation, or a drone that we may develop to detect, for example, pest outbreaks in protected crops. Thirdly, a competence is an area of technical expertise and knowledge, or the availability of test facilities and scientific infrastructure, which, as you may know, is one of the key elements that a competence center has to have. So examples of competences could be, for example, the ability to model crop growth, or to develop risk assessment methods, or in this case, the design of agro sprayers. Okay, so once these three concepts are clear, I'm going to guide you through the process or the steps that you should follow to register your competence center in the innovation portal. So this is how the innovation, the website of the innovation, in the SmartAgriHubs Innovation Portal looks like. If you click on the portal, then you have the possibility to create an account. This is the first step towards the registration of your competence center. You create an account, and then you get into this site. If you click on the network option, then you have a map here, and this is the SmartAgriHubs map. This is all the organizations that are registered in the SmartAgriHubs Innovation Portal. And this includes not only digital innovation hubs, competence centers, but also flagship innovation experiments, tech companies, etc. So if you want to add your competence center to this network, you have to click on here, add organization, and the system will guide you through all the information that you will be required to enter to get your competence center registered. So once your competence center has been registered, the next step would be to register your systems, competences, and technologies. So if you enter with your username into the website, into the SmartAgriHubs website, you have here on the upper right part of the screen the option organizations. If you click in organizations, then the system will lead you to this page at the left part of your screen. If you select this system and competence icon, then you get to this screen on the right part of this page on the right part of your screen, in which you can add systems or add competences. So a very important thing once you start this procedure is to input the technology supporting your system or competence. This is essential for the project, since in next stages we will be classifying the technologies in order to develop more advanced version of this system. So if you go through the registration procedure, once you enter into the wheel, the Agricultural Technology Navigator, you will be asked to select or to choose from different options represented in the different rings of the Agricultural Technology Navigator. So each one of these rings represents a different layer in the, or different stage in the supply chains. So the outer ring represents entities. Entities are the type of agents providing the competence or system, and you have three options. One is companies or technology providers. The second option is competence center, and the third option is other type of organization. If you go,
and Miguel, I might jump in for 2 seconds.
Okay.
But for now, the only entities that may register those things are the competence centers. So we're starting with the competence centers. In the future, it's possible that the tech companies and the other organizations can do that. But for now, we're only starting with competence centers.
And the point here is that iHubs are most likely to be competence centers, but other viewers who are users of FIWARE could end up being companies or organizations or whatever later on. So the main focus at the moment is on the competence center.
Yeah, and also it's the role. If you can have a double role, you can be a competence center and also a hub. So we're interested in the role that you're playing. Are you playing a competence center role?
Yeah. Okay. If we go on with the rings that conform the ATN wheel, the next one, the second ring, is the one that represents the input use in your system or your competence. So inputs as the cluster of production factors used in the value chain where the proposed competence or technology system best fits. So the different options are resources, standards, equipment, risks management, biotechnology, software, and at last facilities and lands. The next ring is the one that represents the cluster of production activities where the proposed competence or technology system best fits. And we have selected here a number of economical sectors within the agri world, and these are animal production, fruits, vegetables, arable, agriculture, dairy, novel foods, and then we have three options which are other, not applicable, or all. And this is just to have the possibility to register competences or systems that don't fit quite well in one of the previously mentioned clusters. Okay, the next ring then represents the distribution, as defined as the cluster of intermediation activities between productive agents and consumers, where the proposed competence or technology system best fits. And we have selected a number of options: logistics, marketing, visibility and traceability, and market trade. And again, these three free options, which are other, not applicable, and all. And at last, the deepest ring, which is the consumer's ring, which represents the cluster of end agents in the value chain. And different options are wholesalers and retailers, online and home, and then at last not applicable. So this is how the Agricultural Technology Navigator works. And I think that Cynthia will now explain the different stages that we will follow to further develop the wheel.
I think it's important for us to understand why we're doing this as well. So, and how this works. There isn't really a good classification system of agricultural technologies. And that's one of the contributions that we hope to offer through this project, and also provide a better searching system. So in the first stage, stage one, that's where you enter online and you fill out your survey and you choose your places on the wheel, as Miguel has just described. There's a really important part of that where you fill in the actual technologies. There's an open text box. You fill in the technologies that go with your systems and competences. So what we do is we collect that from the competence centers that are filling that in, and we classify those technologies. Okay, and we have a big ICT group who will be doing that based on a sort of particular system they have, a control approach of 3 layers. Yeah. So once they've done the classification of those technologies, they're going to create a pre-configured set of technologies. So rather than going into the form and just free form filling out your technologies, you'll be able to choose the appropriate technologies with coding. Why is that important? Because then it allows the searching. So Miguel, if you go to the next slide. Okay, so in the stage 4, that's where you would be able to then actually choose technologies that are pre-configured. Okay, and this would allow you then to be able to search properly for all the technologies. Okay, so it's basically about building a refined search engine for all of the Smart AgriHub community. And that's why we're starting with the Competence Centers first, because they're the ones sort of with the cutting edge technologies, and that will allow us to build the classification system. Okay, next slide. All right, so just to give you a really quick example, we've taken a spraying system to be mounted on a vehicle, right? So this is something that we use in our productive system, farming system here in Almería. So we just want to show you very quickly how you would go about putting that into the Technology Navigator. Next slide. Okay, so first thing we do is we say, fine, as an entity, we're a competence center. All right, next slide. So then we have to go down to the next circle, and we realize that what we're dealing with here is inputs, equipment. So we choose the appropriate category in that circle. Okay, and then what are we dealing with? We're dealing with vegetables, right? So we choose that. Next slide. Distribution, we're not really bothered about. It doesn't really apply to our technology. We're not, that system doesn't deal with it. Okay, so we just put not applicable. We go to the next slide. We have consumers. Again, it's not something that affects us. Now, in a technology such as blockchain or something that has to do with traceability, it very may well include consumers or some other part of the logistics chain. Okay, so next slide. Now we see that we've basically got this little slice of a supply chain. Okay, that's what our system relates to, is that particular supply chain. So now we've got very clear where our technology can be used, where our system can be used. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's how the search engine then will be focused, is helping people find those things within that section of the supply chain. So for now, we've got 100, well, it's probably a little bit more, but we've got 109 registered CCs in the innovation portal, but we've identified about over 500 within our regional clusters in the project that are certainly meet all the requirements to be a competence center. Okay, so we're in the process of getting those 500 registered and putting in their technologies, etc. But our target for the project in general is to have at least 2,000. Okay, and we don't think we're going to have too much of a problem reaching that, because we're beginning to understand just how many competence centers are out there, and not just that traditionally work in agriculture, because we're reaching out to many other networks of digital innovation hubs in the manufacturing sector and other sectors, robotics, but there's more and more technologies that are being applied to agriculture as agriculture becomes more digitized and more sophisticated. Okay, next slide. So in order to help you, we've created a few resources. We've got video tutorials, text tutorials, and also you can see this on the Agricultural Navigator. Next slide. So our mission is to get all of the competence centers registered in the SmartAgriHubs portal, and to get them then to register their systems and competences in the Agricultural Technology Navigator. And we hope that this will be of use for you, not only to showcase what you have to offer, but to allow you to network with other competence centers, and to also discover which technologies might be complementary as well, what people are doing, which parts of the supply chain are working in, what applications are possible, etc. So thank you very much.